So much on the world stage is not how it seems. Welcome to this week's World Affairs Report number 14. I'm Helen Jane Rose, and if you're tuning in for the first time, just to explain that I'm going to read verbatim the report that I write automatically once a week, and then my lovely partner Ged is going to join me to unpack those reports and bring his wisdom. And if you are just joining us, we're at number 14, so there's 13 before this, and the last couple have included either like a activation or a meditation, so you might want to go back because they're timeless. So even though, say, it was like a week ago, they're still, you still get a lot of benefit if you went back and listened to them. And I hope you are well, and I am going to read the report. Welcome, beautiful souls, to this week's World Affairs Truth Report. So much on the world stage is not what it seems. A repeated message perhaps, but one that is needed to help remind you that so much disinformation is at play. You have been so conditioned to place as high importance the goings on in other people's lives. And we wish to say that as the complex web of what is happening in others' lives becomes louder and louder on the world stage, as more and more ambiguity starts to show itself, more confusion, more divide, you would do well to focus on where you are at within yourself, as opposed to getting drawn in to situations where no one really knows the truth of what's going on. As so-called celebrities start to take sides against one another, know that the system that pushed them to fame in the first place is crumbling in front of your eyes. Whilst we never want to cause fear in anything we say, we would advise, like many others have said, to get a little prepared in the days ahead. What we talk of isn't in terms of physical preparation, but inner preparation. That is where we are leading you. For whilst it seems like life as you have known it won't change, for a little while it might. Not in a fearful way, in a liberating way. However, we would advise keeping a little cash to one side, just enough to see you through for about a week, if it needed to, not for anything other than food and essentials that you may need. You see, the entire banking system is in for a shock. All those who rig the system, who believe that they are in control, who crash as and when it suits them, and play with stock like with the same ruthlessness that they play with lives, is to have a shock that their system can be overridden. That a market can be affected by something they hadn't foreseen. Think for a moment of the intricate system that has to take place to bring down a system that sees itself as set in stone, above the law and untouchable. A system so sophisticated that it relies on the ignorance of everyone to keep it inflated. Yet, imagine as it gets exposed. What then? Imagine in a moment trillions could be seen to disappear. Worry not. This is a good thing. A very good state of world affairs. A balancing act of the world financial system is underway that sees the current corruption being called into account by an intricate plan that could never be foreseen. That is where we will leave you this week and say, try not to get drawn into false assumptions coming from the alternative news as set in stone. Claims that they know exactly what is occurring when in truth they will not. For many streams of the alternative are from the same consciousness that they are supposedly claiming to be against. Notice the language of fear that emanates. Feel it. And choose whether you would like your energy to be affected by it or not. Do you choose to align with it or do you not? Many choices are coming your way, and whilst this might seem complicated, it isn't. It's all about discernment, about sharpening your antenna, if you like. Where are you consciously choosing to place your awareness? Who are you giving your energy to? And the overall arching inner question, are you aligning with fear or love? I'm Helen Jane Rose, bringing you the messages and guidance from the Divine Council. I feel again that the report was a bit different this week, but as Ged mentioned last week, it is called the World Affairs Truth Report. So I hope you receive that with an open heart and just choosing to align more with that love that is at the heart of us, that's inside us, that we can really start to feel. And so I'm just going to close my eyes and just see if any additional messages or, I don't know, guidance, or maybe, I'm not sure really, but I will just close my eyes and see if anything wants to come through me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we come and stand to Helen's left. And why do we say this specifically, that we stand to her left? Because we are specifically working on this side. And we ask you, if you would like to in this moment, to just close your eyes and imagine that you are tuning in to the left hand side of you. There is no right or wrong, just set your intention to tune in to the left side of you, to open energetically to your own guides who wish in this moment to be invited in by you, to stand to the left side of you. Try to do this with an open mind and heart, if you like. No need to logically understand, just setting your intention for your own guides to join you in this moment. For in this moment we are collectively working on the left hand side of you. This need not make any logical sense. We just ask if you would like to tune into and invite in your own guides in this moment. And we are collectively working together across time and space for a specific reason in this moment. And this moment matters not when this takes place, for really there is no time. An intention in the moment works across instantaneously any moment. And so if you were to do this, even in your perception of way ahead of this moment, you are still connecting to this moment that is set in this space. Even if just 5 were to do this, to set their intentions in this moment, to open to their own guides to join them, we will have helped you. And this perhaps sounds strange, and that we are not really explaining ourselves in this moment, but we are just helping to strengthen energetically a connection, if you like, to you and your guides who stand in this moment to the left of you. You all have your own guidance teams, if you like, and we very much work together. And we are just encouraging in this moment for you to really consider this point, this fact that you do have your very own guidance team around you that want to be invited in to work closer with you, to play closer to you, to help you. Imagine, if you like, that their sole purpose is to assist you and to bring to you today that reminder that your intention to consciously connect with them is what they are waiting for. And you know this, and this is rudimentary teaching that we are saying, but still to help to remind you that they are there, waiting in your own individual way to assist and communicate with you. And the more you can open your heart to that, and the more you can set your intention to that assistance that is there for you, the more that you build that connection, if you like. And that is where we will leave you today. And we say we love you, and we encourage you to really love you too. Hello. I wonder, that was really interesting for me, because as soon as I closed my eyes, I was like, whoa, I felt something like quite strong to my left. And I just thought it was really interesting when when I started to speak. So I wonder if you felt the same, because like they say, it starts to become palpable. Like, the more we can kind of tune in to the energies of our guides, it does start to become palpable. You can start to feel it. I am going to shuffle over for Ged to come and take over.
Thank you, Helen, once again for a lovely channeling and I guess meditation at the end. So yeah, just reflecting on that, I felt it like a summary of the theme for this week, which was again about listening to yourself and the discernment, away from the noise of what's being sort of forced upon us in many ways now, and being very confusing, is to go inside and listen to yourself and feel those sensations. And they've specifically pointed us towards the left side so that we can focus on that energy. I mean, I'm sure they could come in from the right or above or below, and just noticing that can come as a knowing presence, or as heat, or as cold, or there's lots of different sensory awareness senses that will be unique to you, and just play with that and just see how you feel, and see if any information comes through. Ask questions, and again, the answers to the questions might be subtle as just an idea or a knowing, anything that's come from your mind, but those come from your guides or your higher self. So yeah, play with that, enjoy it, and see what shows up, and see if you can deepen the awareness. So thank you very much. So yeah, the theme, so much on the world stage is not how it seems. I mean, we're all aware of disinformation now. It's been going on for a long time. It's just really obvious nowadays. That brings with it, opportunities as well as challenges, and I think that's what this report is about really deepening your own sense of understanding of the world and you within it, and to listen less to the world stage narrative, the mainstream news, and or even gossip. I mean, they don't use the word gossip in this, but they are alluding to it, I feel, in some way. But yeah, trusting in yourself, and it's all by design. This whole period in human history is about us returning to our sovereign self, and this is part of the program, part of the plan. So it brings with it a whole host of opportunities, not just problematic issues and disappointment and fear and anger and all of those things. It's opportunistic. So they say a repeated message, perhaps one that's needed to help remind you that so much disinformation is at play. I would say, if it's not coming from a known trusted source, then question it. And consider, when you're listening to something, how your body is responding. The body cannot lie. If anyone knows about kinesiology, they muscle test in binary, so it's yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. So any felt sense in your body is an absolutely perfect, accurate response to a situation. But we tend to ignore it. We listen to the mind way more than we do to any bodily responses. Unless you're tuned in on that level, in which case, that's quite a gift, but it's not a gift that can't be attained through a bit of practice. So really listen. I guess you could practice by listening to some or watching some really awful news feed and see how you feel. I mean, you're going to feel bad, and then sort of whittle it down until you're getting a finite response. Listening to good news, how do you respond? Listening to okay news, how do you respond? Listening to neutral news, how do you respond? And just really fine-tune your perceptive sensory awareness. And also, we change our minds all the time, and listen to those responses as well. We change the foods that we eat, the exercises that we do, the politics sometimes, and that's okay. And your body will tell you whether that change is okay or not. Some people flip between not eating meat, eating meat, not eating meat, eating meat, and because they're listening to their body. If they feel like they need, maybe the body's telling them that there's something in this particular dish that is needed, and they base their diet on that at that time. It's important not to get addicted to fads or other people's beliefs, because that might be perfect for them but not for you. Someone telling you that bananas or eggs are bad for you, it's kind of ridiculous, because they come from the Creator, don't they? Why would the Creator make a banana or an egg that's bad for you? I don't really understand that. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. And also, it begs the question, why would someone want to disinform us or misinform us? We've spoke a lot about this. There's a bigger plan on the world stage, and there's, I guess, a battle for human consciousness, and the battleground is the planet Earth, Gaia, whichever you prefer, and that's the stage through which this battle is taking place. There's also battles being taken place on the non-physical. But what's important is to recognise that the events of the world and the stories and the propaganda and the news feeds that are being pushed out there are sent to confuse you. They'll play you from one side to the other, from one side to the other, and with that becomes separation consciousness. So they're forcing us into trying to choose sides, because the next stage of human growth, the huge step forward, is an acceptance of oneness, that we're all from the same place. It's very difficult at this time, especially if you do focus on the tragic events of the world, and we know that there are seemingly humans that push the button to do these things, how you would not want to take sides against them. It's okay to have an opinion, but your focus has to be on how do we step forward into oneness where those events don't exist, where that behavior doesn't exist. If you take yourself down to that lower vibration, you'll stay there. You'll stay in separation consciousness. And that's what they want. There are lots of mystics and teachers out there, you know, and trusted ones, certainly ones that I, you know, listened to for a long time, and now listening to Helen and the DC, and there's a common theme that the human consciousness evolution is already decided and it's done. But it's kind of like a frequency, or a set of coordinates, if you like. It's much easier to think of it in that way. It's like a cosmic map where that place in time is in a certain place where it's already done. We have to find those coordinates through lifting our consciousness. And so the delay, if you like, by believing in separation consciousness, and keeps us away from those coordinates, and that just creates more pain and suffering and difficulty. And so the coordinates, I guess, will be revealed to us if you find that sense of self in this place and time, and your fundamental belief in that that's possible, that we can find that oneness state. If they keep us maintained in this separation consciousness, then we can be enslaved, because we're in a state of confusion, and they'll put a leader in here or a leader in there, and some of them will appear to be great, and then all of a sudden they'll change sides and change the way they behave. And we can be manipulated and controlled and kept in a lower place. But if we lift our consciousness and vibration and become sovereign, and we can't be enslaved, then we're no use to those controlling entities. They'll just disappear out of our reality, because we won't serve any purpose, and we'll be able to get on with our lives and live them the way we should be, in a state of harmony, joy, compassion, caring for each other, exponential growth like you've never experienced before, and, you know, a supportive nature rather than destructive. The DC say that you've been so conditioned to place as high importance the goings on in other people's lives, and we wish to say that as the complex web of what is happening in other people's lives becomes louder and louder on the world stage, as more and more ambiguity starts to show itself, more confusion, more divide, you would do well to focus on where you are at within yourself, as opposed to getting drawn into situations where no one really knows the truth of what's occurring. So yeah, confusion is the theme from this paragraph. And again, confusion causes separation. They're saying that we're conditioned to almost be obsessed with other people's lives. You know, the stuff that's being pushed out in the mainstream media, and also, you know, and other music channels and TV and dramas and everything. We put so much importance in other people's lives, and that's how we can be manipulated, because they can put these people on a pedestal sometimes and then pull the pedestal from underneath them and they fall to the ground. And, you know, we jump up and cheer quite often, but they're pulling all the strings. They're pulling the strings of revelation as and when they choose. If they want to move the narrative in some way, they'll just hang someone else out to dry. The people that are prepared to put themselves in these positions, they're power hungry and greedy, and so they're willing to take those risks, unfortunately. So they're asking you to, when you observe these revelations, notice how you feel. Are you in that separation energy that wants action to be taken to put them to the sword, or whatever means is available to you? And I'm not saying that things shouldn't be dealt with and corrected, and they should be in the correct manner. But if you attack the person, the individual, they've done their job. They've got you exactly where they want you, in that separation energy, separated consciousness. As so-called celebrities start to take sides against one another, know that the system that pushed them to fame in the first place is crumbling in front of your eyes. So the DC are referring to a collective force that's challenging humanity's natural state of loving kindness, compassion and oneness. So the collective force, you know, it's quite obvious in the big events of life, the big systems of life, if you like, politics, health, money, religion. But more and more, increasingly, we're seeing, you know, these public figures are coming through music and through TV, and, you know, they're really obvious ones that I don't need to mention here. But a lot of these celebrities, they've signed contracts, some knowingly, some unknowingly, some through greed. And the contract is, we'll put you in this position of fame and fortune, but then you'll pump out our narrative and things that we want to say, and those, it's basically some form of mind control, manipulation, especially when young people idolize these figures. But there seems to be an increasing number of these characters that are challenging the narrative. Unfortunately, some of them face consequences. You know, I would name a few: Prince, Michael Jackson, and because the message they were spreading was very loving. John Lennon, another, you know, imagine all the people. And these are profound messages of pointing us towards oneness, that the controlling entities do not want us to go anywhere near. They say, whilst we never want to cause fear in anything we say, we would advise, like many others have said, to get a little prepared in the days ahead. What we talk of isn't in terms of physical preparation, but inner preparation. That is where we are leading you. So there are lots of prophecies, ancient prophecies, modern mystic prophecies, channelings, lots of psychic information, if you like, a lot from trusted sources that talk about this period in time as a huge shift, change in consciousness, for evolution for humanity, and within that is a period of what some people call darkness, some people are calling it shutdown, or now that can come from many sources. There are suggestions, I mean, if you Google solar flash or days of darkness, there's lots of information, but it's all theories. But there seems to be a common theory, and part of that, I think, it may or may not happen. I've got no idea. It makes sense that it might do, but it would be a period of self-reflection if it does happen, and just to go still. I mean, we had a long period in COVID where we had the opportunity to be still, and there's a suggestion here that's opportunistic. So they're stressing that this is not a fearful thing. There's absolutely nothing to worry about, and choose the opportunity to self-reflect and just know where you're at, especially in relation to fear. But they do get very specific here, which I found very interesting. They go on to say, for whilst it seems like life as you've never known it won't change, for a little while it might. Not in a fearful way, in a liberating way. However, we would advise keeping a little cash to one side, just enough to see you through 1 week, if it needed to. Not for anything other than food and essentials that you may need. You see, the entire banking system is in for a shock. All those who rig the system, who believe that they are in control, who crash as and when it suits them and play with the stock with the same ruthlessness that they play with lives, is to have a shock that their system can be overridden, that a market can be affected by something they hadn't foreseen. Think for a moment of the intricate system that has to take place to bring down a system that sees itself set in stone, above the law and untouchable. A system so sophisticated that it relies on the ignorance of everyone to keep it inflated. Yet imagine as it gets exposed, what then? Imagine in a moment trillions could be seen to disappear. Worry not, this is a good thing. A very good state of world affairs. A balancing act of the world financial system is underway that sees the current corruption being called into account by an intricate plan that could never be foreseen. It's really important to listen to what they're saying here, that this is a good thing, before anyone goes into fear and starts withdrawing money from bank accounts and stuff. There's absolutely no need for that. There's some ambiguity, some, I guess, mystics or psychics might read this as part of, this 3 days of darkness, because there's so much solar activity bombarding the earth right now. Some people suggest that this increase in solar activity could interfere with our electrical systems, and everything's digital, so that makes total sense. But what didn't make sense to me would be, if that did happen and we had to reset a system financially, have we actually learned anything? Are you just resetting something that was there before? So it got me thinking, in order to change something, you have to really understand that it's broken. And this is my own personal opinion, and please just listen to your own opinions, and I'm sure there'll be many, many of them. I personally feel that, because there are so many revelations on the world stage at the moment, that we've not really seen a financial one. Everybody knows it's corrupt, and everybody knows the inequality that's getting worse and worse day by day. The poverty gap it's just ridiculous. And there's a suggestion here that there's some revelation about a rigged system, and that people already know about it and maybe are preparing something to pull the plug out of it. And I imagine that there's some information gathering going on, and that in order for that to be reset, re-challenged and rebuilt, they've literally got to pull the plug out of it. So when it happens, and the suggestion here is it will, do not panic. Know that it's a good thing, and it's not going to be long. I imagine they've got another system ready and waiting. Digital assets, crypto and whatnot, I'm sure there's a lot of corruption in that already as well, but there will be somewhere within that the possibility of decentralized control, where you manage your own money, where there's not some unelected controlling entity holding all your money. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I wish they'd get on with it and do it. Do not go into fear. There is a bigger picture, a bigger plan at play, where we're being looked after in many, many different ways. They say that is where we will leave you this week, and say try not to get drawn into false assumptions coming from the alternative news as set in stone. Claims that they know exactly what is occurring, when in truth they will not understand. For many streams of the alternative are from the same consciousness that they are supposedly claiming to be against. Notice the language of fear that emanates. Feel it and choose whether you would like your energy to be affected by it or not. Do you choose to align with it or not? Many choices are coming your way, and whilst this might seem complicated, it isn't. It's all about discernment and sharpening your antenna, if you like. Where are you consciously choosing to place your awareness? Who are you giving your energy to? And the overall arching inner question, are you aligning with fear or love? So they're bookending this channeling with the same message that they started with. It's about discernment. They're including the sort of spiritual world in this now as well, because there's a lot of misinformation within that, some knowingly, some unknowingly. Some people just regurgitating other people's work without really feeling into it themselves. If you feel any fear from any message, or you don't feel good afterwards, don't listen to it again, or challenge it, whatever. But they really want you to listen to yourself, and so I can't stress that enough. Yeah. So are you aligning with fear or love? It's as simple as that, basically. Fear or love, or separation or oneness. Two very simple questions to ask. You follow those and you'll be fine. So that's all from me from week 14, or number 14. How about you?
Yeah, I probably would just add that I think we've been so conditioned not to trust ourselves, to trust everything outside of ourselves, whether it is down to, putting people on pedestals. They must know more than us, they're better than us, they know more. And I think that we're so being encouraged to really start to realise that there is this, even if we're like not at that place of really like loving ourselves and trusting ourselves, but to start to trust that we do have an inner guidance system, and that if we start from that perspective, that inwardly, like you were saying, we can start to feel what feels fearful, what feels loving. And then I think the more that we can put out awareness to trying to trust that there is this inner guidance system and it comes through our feelings, that the outside world and all of what has become, is supposed, we're made to feel so important, becomes less so, and our inner world becomes more important to us. And then, it goes back to that old thing of what they say, that then we shift and we change from within ourselves, and then the external shifts. And so, yeah, that's probably what I'd like to add.
Well, you can start with the discernment and choices on a basic level. Things like when you open your wardrobe in the morning and you want to choose something to wear, choose what it feels like as well as what it looks like, because colours have a vibration. We often get drawn to a certain colour to match what we need in that day or how we're feeling in that day, and notice what you're being drawn towards and what kind of style. And the same with food. If you go out to a restaurant, look at everything on the menu and feel which ones you're drawn to, and ask the question, why am I being drawn to that? And just sort of play with it, have a bit of fun. And in other things, like choosing where to go on holiday by how you feel about somewhere rather than what's being sold to you. Start to make choices for yourself, and then more opportunities will be presented to you to choose for yourself rather than just being sold, basically, and not always something that you need or want. So yeah, yes. Keep trusting in yourself more and more, and we'll all be fine. Well, we already are. We just got to find that frequency, those coordinates, and we'll meet you all there. So that's all from us.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Great.
And thank you very much for tuning in.
Bye.
And we'll send lots of love.